Welcome to another very special episode of Pub Talk, the unofficial, official craft beer podcast of Oklahoma. I'm Jeremy, your legendary host, this time not joined by my good friend Michael. He was unfortunately not able to join us today due to something that came up last minute. However, I'm very excited to say I'm recording this from the beautiful tap room of Tulsa's own Cabin Boys Brewery, and have the pleasure of talking today with their art director and one of their founders, Lisa McIlroy. Lisa and I are going to chat about all things Cabin Boys, craft beer, who knows what else. So let's get this thing started. First of all, thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for wanting to be here.
Absolutely. So I guess just to start off, I'd kind of talk to us about how Cabin Boys came to be and just kind of the history of what brought you guys to Tulsa.
Well, so it all started, oh goodness, I think it was almost 6 years ago now, when I told my husband, Austin, he needed to get a hobby. So at the time, we were working opposite schedules, and I was teaching painting classes in the evenings, and he was doing a standard 9 to 5 in the insurance world, actually. And I would go to work and come home at like 11 o'clock at night, and he would just be on the couch watching TV. And finally, after a couple of weeks of that, I said, you're a more interesting person than this. Just because I'm not at home doesn't mean you can't go do something fun. So this is why adults have hobbies. So he had just watched this wonderful documentary on Netflix about the owner, Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head, and started watching things about home brewing. And he was like, well, fine, woman, I'm going to get a hobby and I'm going to brew in our kitchen. And I was like, that's awesome, because then I get to drink beer. It sounds really cool. I didn't even know you could, at that point, I didn't even know you could home brew. So he started home brewing, and then he pulled Ryan, who's been his best friend since high school, into it. And we were pretty much brewing in our kitchen every weekend, it seemed like, after that. And, the first few batches, first we were just surprised that it was drinkable. We're like, wow, we made it, and it actually tastes like a beer. Yeah. But it wasn't very good for a long time. And I don't know, it just sort of spiraled from hobby to passion. And really that's where kind of Austin's strength came in. It's just when he's really passionate and curious about something, he can't just halfway do anything. So he just head dived into all grain brewing and all this stuff. And we lived overseas for a while, actually, in Japan. And even while we were in Japan, he was still home brewing, and I was helping him at that point. And we were brewing out of a 400 square foot apartment, and we had this ghetto cooler that we turned into a mash tun, and just buying ingredients from Australia and stuff to try to brew in Japan. And it was crazy. He became, I want to say obsessed, but I really think passionate is a nicer word for it. So
fine line.
Yeah, I just started reading books, and pulled me and Ryan into it, and we weren't hard to convince, because beer is fun and it's delicious. Totally. And this whole world of craft beer was just worth exploring. And him and Ryan both have business backgrounds, business degrees, and they were just reading books on how to open a brewery, all these different other small business books, just researching, looking at the Oklahoma market. And finally, I think this was now about 3 years ago, they were like, hey, the laws in Oklahoma are going to change.
Yeah.
And if we're going to take this hobby to the next level, we need to do it right now. So that way, when it does lift and we can have a tap room, we can get on the ground floor and we can make a business. So we kind of, three of us were like, do we want to do this? Do we want to quit our day jobs? What do we want to do? And we decided to go for it. We're young enough, we're dumb enough, let's do it. So Austin actually went to the World Brewing Academy. Sorry.
It's all good.
It's always ringing.
Yeah.
He went to the World Brewing Academy, which is a partnership between two different brewing schools. So there's the Siebel Institute out of Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And then there's Duman's Academy in Munich. So we spent about 3 months in Chicago and 4 months in Munich while he was in school, learning how to brew on a commercial level. So sorry, that was a really long-winded answer.
No,
for
that's
one
awesome.
question.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess.
So after school, we came back to Tulsa. So Ryan and Austin are both born and raised in Tulsa. I'm the odd one out of the owners. I actually was born in Dallas and grew up in Northern Illinois, but we all knew that Tulsa was where we wanted our brewery to be.
Sure.
And while we were in Munich, Ryan actually spent a month with us, and it's just this. I look on it now and I was like, oh, we were so carefree. We were so happy. We were like drinking in the evenings at all these beautiful beer gardens in Munich, and like doing research, and then Austin was going to school during the day. I was working on the logo design. Ryan was working on the business plan, and we would come together and like just like hash everything out that everyone was learning and working on, and just kind of finalizing like what we wanted our business, what our brewery was going to look like. And when we moved back to Tulsa, it took about, I think we found this location after being back. I think we were only back like 3 or 4 months before we discovered this location and got the lease for it, and
that's awesome.
really just committed.
Yeah.
So
and I guess I was going to ask that, to the outside looking in, it seemed like you guys just popped up out of nowhere. Because, been going to Hop Jam, McNally's Festival, all that for years. The first time I remember seeing you guys was probably about a year ago at Hop Jam last year.
Yep.
And then fast forward 5 months, you're open.
Yeah. So
and it seems like you're everywhere.
And part of that was due to, I think, I really have to compliment my business partners on just, you will never meet any other men under 30 who have that much tenacity, I don't think. They're just both go-getters. They're just constantly thinking about ways to improve beer, improve the processes here, and I think none of us, we just don't want to waste time. Yeah. So it was like, we need the education. So Austin got the education. Ryan finished up his business degree from OU. I was doing freelance design at the time, so it was really convenient with my job to be able to kind of go to Chicago, go to Munich, and still be kind of working in the graphic arts. And then we got the lease for the building, and it was just like, all right, Ryan already had, a 50-page business plan done with projections, all the research he had been doing for years, and then it was just like, this is the time to do it. And Austin actually worked over at Elgin Park, and Eric Marshall is actually his mentor. And so while we were, getting our building retrofitted, getting the tanks ordered, kind of building up our tap room, he worked for a little over a year as a brewer at Elgin Park. So
that's awesome. It's all one big happy family.
We are, and especially being just down the street from Eric and all the guys over there at Marshall. Sometimes people come in and they're like, "Oh, you guys Ravels?" And really, it's not like that. We love them and we love the beer that they're doing, and it's different from us, and if you go to their tap room, it's a different feel from ours, and that's what makes it great, because we're not all trying to do the same thing, but we support them. They're really the ones that paved the way for craft beer in this state. Eric's brother Adam is our lawyer. He's helped answer a lot of our questions. There was one time when our malt mill wasn't working, and we called Eric in a panic, and he came over and did troubleshooting with Austin, and I'd say we really couldn't ask for better neighbors. Yeah,
that's awesome. And just speaking as a beer drinker, there's room for all y'all.
Well, that's what I don't think Oklahomans realize. There's so many breweries opening up. Are you worried? And I'm like, I don't know. Have you been to Denver where there's 310 miles?
I hear about San Diego. I haven't been out there yet, but it's people will come and drink beer. It's not an issue.
Yes, and different people are gonna they're gonna have their favorite spots or whatever, but there's really something special about having your own neighborhood brewery, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've seen, in the last month or 2 months, it's been this year anyway, the bottles and cans from Cabin Boys starting to show up in liquor stores and everything. I guess I'm curious as far as like distribution wise. Is it Tulsa? Is it Oklahoma? Are we going bigger? What's the kind of goal there?
That's a really excellent question. So right now, we're just now approaching our 6-month anniversary this week.
Nice.
Of being open.
So
up until this point, our whole focus has just been, let's get open.
Yeah.
Let's figure out our systems. Let's make our beer good and make it well and make it consistently well, and like create a fun atmosphere in our tap room. And let's take care of Tulsa first. That's been our big priority. Was, we have a 10-barrel brew house, so we had, starting out, we had one brewer. We now have a second brewer helping us out, Ben Ellard.
Right.
He's awesome. So now we have 2 guys. We're still only brewing like about 3 times a week. So there's only so much you can do there.
Yeah,
capacity. You
sure.
only have so many tanks. Different beers take different time in fermentation. If you look out the window, it's 4 guys, and they're probably going to be here for about 12 hours today doing 20 barrels canning of our Huntman IPA. And so for right now, our focus is just like, let's take care of Tulsa. Let's let Tulsa know we're here.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere, and like get them excited about us, because even still, like when we were pouring at Hop Jam, there's a lot of Tulsans walking by that never even heard of us.
Really?
So it's still, I think the word's still getting out there. But that being said, we are looking to start doing more distribution towards Oklahoma City starting this summer.
Right on.
So we haven't really done a lot in OKC yet, but we're coming for them this summer. So
did you guys do their beer festival over the weekend?
we
as
did,
well?
yeah.
Okay.
So it was a long weekend. We did. So OCBF was last weekend at the Cox Convention Center in Oklahoma City, and it was 3 sessions. So Friday night, all day Saturday, there's 2 sessions. And then we drove back, and then we did Hop Jam all day yesterday, and now they're canning out there for 12 hours today. So we're all taking tomorrow off.
I would imagine, yeah.
But, when it's with beer and pouring beer and hanging out with people who like beer, sometimes it doesn't really feel like work.
Those are a lot of long days, though.
They are.
I was just at Hop Jam, and I'm exhausted today. So, so what we've got, and for those that are listening that aren't in Oklahoma, we've got some law changes coming in October. We're still a little archaic here with some of our alcohol laws. Is it going to impact you guys very much, the changes that are coming in October?
Oh, definitely. So one of the big things that's going to affect our tap room is right now we're restricted to stop serving beer at 9 p.m. And now some of the other breweries, or like they can get around with it if they have under 4-point beer. So if they have the low point license, you can serve it later. But we're not making low point beers. We're just making what we like to drink, which I think our lowest is, like 4%. But we decided, since we knew those laws were changing, we would just wait the 6 months, or the year until it changed. And so starting in October, we'll be able to be open till midnight.
Oh, okay.
And serve beer till midnight. So that's going to be really great. Because, you go to other states and the breweries are open pretty late, and they have music till late, or they have late night karaoke, or it's just kind of a fun hangout place. And we have groups of 20-somethings come every Friday and Saturday that get here like 8:45, and we're like, we'll close in 15 minutes, let's go. And they're like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, I'm sorry, you're in Oklahoma. It's going to change in October.
They expect you probably to be open like a bar is.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a big one. Another one that's going to change how breweries do business is with the distribution. So like right now, or how it has been, is like you can sell to all of the companies and the kind of like all the different distribution companies can kind of pick and choose like what they want, but you have to like offer it to every single one of them. And then coming in the fall, it's going to change. You're going to have to choose. You're going to have to sign with certain companies. Different companies are going to start having focuses instead of everyone doing everything. You're going to see some focus on liquor and some focus on craft beer and some focus on wine more heavily. So you're going to see a little bit more niche markets. And with the liquor stores and everything changing, with the it's also going to change our distribution because you could see now local craft beer popping up at Reese's.
Oh, that's right.
Quick Trip, and it could be chilled even at the liquor stores that choose to carry it. Like they can have it in the fridge, whereas like right now the only time you can get like a cold 4-pack of our beer is if you come into the tap room. So that's going to be really, really cool, and I'm not really sure exactly what it's going to look like when it happens, but it's going to open up a lot of opportunities, I think, for the breweries and for the consumers.
I know you said you guys brew the beer that you like. Do you have a favorite style?
So we are kind of becoming known as like the Belgian brewery because about half of our stuff are Belgian styles, and it's pretty much because me, Austin, and Ryan really like Belgian styles. Not that I don't like other styles. I like a lot of different styles. There's very few beers that I dislike, actually. But one of my all-time favorites is a good Belgian strong or quadruple ale. And so the one that we make right now, it's actually our most popular seller in the tap room, which is pretty cool, is our Bearded Theologian Quad. Have you had it?
Oh, yeah. I was drinking it at the Blue Dome Arts Festival the other day.
Oh, nice.
They had it on tap at their beer garden.
Yeah. So that's always been one of my favorite styles. Ever since I first started getting into craft beer, I was always drinking like the different Chimay, or Unibrew makes really good Belgian styles, or just kind of going along those lines and looking for those like those kind of more spicy clove, caramel, cinnamon. It's like, and quads are interesting because you can get a lot of variety on them that not everybody knows. Cause a true quad can be anywhere from 8% up to like 14. So when you get up to the 14% ones, you're getting a lot more of that like alcohol burn on there. It's almost like a slow sipping of like a wine, or even almost, you can almost get a little bit of like whiskey or something on there. But and then like the 8%, like what we do, it's a little bit sweeter. You get more of those stone fruit characteristics from the yeast. It's a little bit more drinkable. It's not as heavy, so.
You can have more than one without.
Yeah. For me, I still have to be careful because
8% is still nothing to laugh at.
Yeah, exactly.
So, being on the inside of the industry, do you see like a trend with craft beer right now, like where it's heading, or any?
It's interesting because I think craft beer, because it's such a thing that you can be creative with. And I feel like every couple of years people are going to come out with something that like all the breweries are going to kind of hop on and be like, all right, we're going to try this style out. So like right now, one thing that I've seen that I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan. I've had a couple that were good and a couple that were terrible. And I'm not going to name brewery names, but like these like milkshake IPAs and things are becoming kind of trendy right now, where you put like lactose or whatever into an IPA, and so you get like a really creamy and yet it's hoppy, and that's kind of interesting. And then obviously right now, and especially in Oklahoma, one of the trendy things is sour ales. Sours are really trendy, and that's like probably one of the things like on social media when we ask people like, what do you think we're going to come out with next, or what do you want to see? Like a lot of consumers are asking for sours. And, in Tulsa, we have American Solera, Heirloom Rustic Ales,
Yeah.
Prairie. They're all
Lots of sours.
doing sours, and they're doing them well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not saying that Cabin Boys won't ever do sours. I'm actually drinking one of our sours right now. But it's a kettle sour. But for right now, we're kind of like, I don't want to overflood the market with a lot of the same things, because if I want to, as a consumer, if I want a really good sour, I know where to go. I'm going to go down to 18th in Boston and go hang out at Sobo for a little bit. Also, what people don't know, which is kind of the science behind brewing, is that sours, a lot of sour styles come from wild yeast strains.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't mix wild yeast and clean yeast, which is just anything that's not sour, basically, together, or it will actually, all of your clean beers, so like our Kolsch, our Quad, everything would eventually turn sour if we were to brew on the same system and in the same tanks and the same hoses. So we actually saw that when the sour trend first started about 3 years ago. We saw even big breweries like Goose Island make that mistake and have to recall a bunch of like their wheat beers and stuff, because they ended up getting contaminated because they used the same lines or the same hoses, and those wild yeast strains just take over eventually, and you just, no matter how much caustic or acid or whatever you flush through your system, it's never going to come back out.
Get it all out.
Yeah. So but we could get away with kettle sours, because what happens, like when we brew our Berliner Weiss, we actually put like yogurt. The guys put yogurt into the mash, and it sits in the mash tun for 4 to 6 days and sours the mash in there, and then you boil it. So then you kill off those wild yeast when you boil it, but the beer still already has that sour light taste.
Right on. I had no idea. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when people are like, when are you coming out with the sour? We're like, it's not likely. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
I can tell you where to get one.
I can tell you where you could get some really good ones.
Yeah.
Not far from here.
Kind of going backwards, but do you remember what your first craft beer was?
So it's kind of fine line, because I remember my first beer that like wasn't just like so my first beer ever was Guinness.
Oh wow.
Which isn't like usually a very common answer, but it's because that's what my dad drank.
Okay.
And so when I went to college and they were giving me like Natty Light, I was like, what is this? Like, I was already over that.
More snobby than your average college student.
Yeah. Which, now being in the craft beer world, Guinness isn't anything fancy.
Right.
But, for a young 20-year-old person.
It's fancy as hell compared to
Natty. And then I did a study abroad in college, and I fell in love with Franziskaner Hefeweizens.
Okay.
And so I really got into that. But then, like, the first beer I remember where I was like, this is more than just a beer, was actually Take 7 from Boulevard.
Oh, right on.
So, and I don't know, I think that was kind of like a tipping point to start like looking for other beers, because it was so different from everything else I'd ever had. And I don't think I was young, so I didn't have a lot of money, so I wasn't really out there like looking for things. But I think Tank 7 was the first beer I had where I was like, there's more beer out there that I need to like learn about.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. So one thing, we'll probably ask this question to every brewer we ever talk to, because there's something about getting the beer, we call it straight from the cow's tit, out of those taps in the tap room.
Yeah.
It just tastes exponentially better than a can, no matter what day it was canned or whatever else. Do you have any insight into why that is?
Freshness.
Yeah.
I think. And sorry, we've got like a lawnmower going by.
It's okay.
No, I think it depends on style of beer too.
Yeah.
But even some of these like great breweries who've been doing it for like hundreds of years, like over in Germany and stuff, and you get the beer here and you have it out of the bottle, it's not the same as being in Germany and having it at the brewery itself. And same here, like, you get a something from California or something, and it's cool and it's rare and maybe it's awesome, but if you actually went to that brewery, it would taste even fresher.
Yeah.
And it has to do with just how beers age, because even in a can or a keg that's traveling, it's just time, and especially like something like our Kolsch.
Yeah.
Like even having it like the first time the keg is tapped, like we just got this out of fermentation yesterday.
Yeah.
And having that beer so fresh, it even tastes different from like the end of that batch a little bit. Okay. Being like, oh yeah, this has been sitting there for a few weeks even. Like I can taste the difference in that beer.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. I guess in my mind, I'm like, it's got something to do with
like how the hops age. Yeah, because especially like with your really hoppy beers, like your IPAs, you also notice it too. The taste is going to be different, like how soon you've had it since it's been brewed versus later.
Yeah.
Because hops are actually their natural preservatives, and so they'll keep the beer, from contaminating over time, and they'll, preserve the freshness.
Yeah.
But the longer hops sit, the flavor dies down.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. It makes sense. I ask so that I learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you were talking about home brewing earlier and kind of how you guys got started. So my Christmas gift from Heather this year was a home brewing kit.
Nice.
So I'm afraid that's going to be a slippery slope, but because we're already on we did a Pilsner, and now we got a stout going. But so I guess I'm curious what your favorite part of home brewing was back in the day. Maybe drinking it. I'm just guessing.
Drinking the fruits of your labor is always great. And like I said, I don't claim to be the brewer here. Definitely, right. That's Austin, and I would say mostly was his assistant back in the day. But like I remember, so the first time we brewed in Japan, it was really funny because we just put this hodgepodge system together, and our sanitizing solution hadn't come in yet, but this was the only day we could brew.
Yeah.
Before we had to go back to work on Monday. It was like, hey, we've got this day, everybody's here, so we've got to figure out a way to keep it clean.
Yeah.
And if you brew it all, you know that cleaning is 99% of brewing, pretty much. Like, you have to keep everything clean or you're not going to have a good beer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came up with the idea of, well, because we were going to do a citrus IPA. I was like, we have this bag of lemons, and lemons are like natural sanitizing things. So I spent like an hour with like juicing lemons and like cleaning all of the equipment with lemons, cleaning out all of the pots, making sure there was nothing in there that would contaminate the beer. And Austin was just looking at me like, there's no way this is going to work.
Yeah.
And the beer came out great.
Nice.
A little extra lemon.
Yeah, sure. But
so
I
think it's just those kinds of things in home brewing that were fun for me, is like having to jerry rig things or troubleshoot, or when you're brewing on a small scale, it's harder, but there's more, I think, room for trying to just come up with these like crazy things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they really don't. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of the fun thing, is how experimental it can be.
Right on.
Yeah.
Nice. So doing research and everything for this, we were looking at your website, and it says that you guys want to make beers that are crafted for the community. So just kind of curious what that means, to you guys.
Yeah. So our slogan, Crafted for Community, that actually came to us while 3 of us were in Munich on one of those long brainstorming nights where we were working on the business plan, and we were talking about slogans, and the apartment we were staying in was super tiny, like 200 square feet, but it had these huge windows, and so Ryan had these dry erase markers, and he was just like writing everything really big on like it was a whiteboard, but it was a window, and like the 3 of us were like pacing around this tiny room, just like throwing things out there, and our image, our brand of the cabin, like our namesake, that comes from actually that picture behind you there. There's a cabin in the woods in Catoosa, that Austin and his dad built. This was like 7.5 years ago, and just like this, I always called it my father-in-law's like funny midlife crisis. Like he's like, some 50-year-olds buy a sports car and he's like, I'm gonna hire my son to build a cabin with me, and they chopped all the trees down themselves.
Wow.
Milled all the wood, designed it themselves. It's absolutely beautiful, and over the years, my in-laws just kept adding to it, and different family members and friends brought different things into it. Everybody, like kind of what we took from that was like, it wasn't just these two guys that built a cabin and it was awesome. It was, I made a sign, and an uncle came and helped with the rail one day, and Austin's sister helped and filled in the walls and helped insulate, and the girls came and they put the lights up, and all of their friends, all of their family came to make it what it is. And then since then they use it together. We've had bachelor parties, community nights, wedding receptions, hangouts where we just go out there and hang out at this cabin, and we've had Christmas out there a few times. It's really fun.
Nice.
And so we're just kind of thinking about how the cabin in itself became this like icon of an oasis, a quiet place where you don't take your phones, where you just go and enjoy time with people you love and care about. And then flash forward to us being in Germany and going to all these beer halls and beer gardens and seeing people come together at big long tables, ages 2 to 92, like sharing over a beer in the park on the afternoon, and there's music playing, and people are outside and they're drinking beer, and kind of seeing how that lifts a community, to have people come to a place where they can gather, and kind of wanting to combine those two ideas together and make something like that for Tulsa. So that's why we're the Cabin Boys, and that's why like the community, craft, beer, like how does this all tie together? And we're thinking, we don't just make beer, and the beer that we're making isn't beer for people to just get wasted off of.
Right.
It's conversation beer.
Yeah.
And so you come into our tap room, and all of this wood, the guys made all the tables.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hunter, Ryan, and Austin did this. Hunter, he's our sales guy. His dad owns a pipe yard, and he had welded all the table legs for us. And so we don't have a TV in the tap room, and it's all community seating. So it's kind of that idea of like in Europe, like you don't just get your table for 4. You have to sit and talk to people and like learn or share space, and that's kind of what we wanted, is like a hangout spot for conversation and the enjoyment of beer.
Yeah, awesome. Which I guess kind of tying in, you guys have just done an amazing job of getting your brand out there, and I'm curious the social media stuff and like how that all works for you guys, because it's just very impressive to me, especially as someone that tries to get their own brand out there on social media, and it's a full-time job sometimes.
Yeah, so this is actually, now you're teetering into actually what I do for the company.
Right on.
So as art director, I'm kind of the head of the marketing team, and there's, being a small company and being a new company, I would say we all wear a lot of different hats, and we all kind of have a little bit of overlap. Like there's not like one person who's doing all of everything.
Sure.
But my job is basically to get the word out about our events, get the word out that we're here. So it's fun that you bring up social media, because that's something that me and Hunter in the last few months we've brought in one of our bartenders who's a talented photographer onto helping with that.
Okay.
And so he's now taking the pictures, and we meet every Monday, and the 3 of us kind of talk about like what are our posts for this week.
Oh, cool.
And so it could be one person's full-time job, but we kind of have it spread out between 3 of us, kind of checking and saying like, hey, if one of us is busy, that way the other one, if somebody asks a question, on Instagram or Facebook that keeps our response times up.
Sure.
Because most of the time it's pretty simple questions too, like what are your hours?
Yeah.
Or what do you have this beer available? Do you have any medium gray T-shirts left?
Sure.
And so kind of just having several pairs of eyes on that and like looking for things and just double checking ourselves too, because one of my pet peeves is like spelling errors.
I'm with you. Yep.
And it happens so easy if you're like just I gotta pose for the day, and then like one of us will catch it and be like, oh, you spelled bear wrong. No, like okay, let's get on there and edit that real quick. But I think also just kind of like from a marketing strategy, just kind of having those weekly meetings, because our weeks change so fast. It's like, what do we need to promote? What haven't we talked about in a while? Okay, well, we've talked about beer yoga and trivia and stuff, but we haven't talked about like what's on tap in a while. So let's do another post about that. Or we have a one-off coming out this week, and it's going to be a limited quantity. Like, let's do a cool shoot with that and our tanks. And so just kind of, it's a lot of planning and then a lot of flexibility at the same time.
Right. Good. Which you said you kind of are in charge of the events too. I just thought I'd throw out there, we were at your St. Patrick's Day thing
awesome.
A couple months ago. Really cool event. I guess I'm curious, like anything similar to that planned and or
coming up?
If that's going to be, or if that's going to be like an annual thing? Or...
I definitely think St. Patty's Day is going to be an annual thing. That one was we were a little nervous about it at first because there are so many other cool things you can do already in St. Patrick's Day, but, I'm Irish and Austin's Irish, part Irish, and so that was one that we were like, we really kind of want to have something fun because we didn't know of any breweries really doing anything, and especially with like the taproom thing still being pretty new to Tulsa. Our hopes, and what I think I actually came to realize with that was that, it was more of like a low-key crowd on St. Patty's Day, because you have your people who are doing Irish car bombs all day, and they're down there at, the Blue Dome, and they're having a really good time, and then our group, not that people weren't happy, they were very happy, I will say that, but,
that's one of those,
when you're slow slipping on beer, it takes a little longer, and we were really pleased that we didn't have any fights or.
Oh, sure.
No, our customers were fantastic, so we're definitely going to do it again.
Awesome.
And this summer, be looking out. We've got like 3 or 4 different events that we're kind of thinking about and working on. Ideas or a luau.
Right on.
Yeah. We've been talking to Marshalls, and there's actually just OK Distilling is right across the street. They're going to be opening up a cidery here pretty soon, and so there's been talks of maybe a 7th Street block party.
There you go.
We're talking with Kendall Whittier about actually nicknaming and getting a street sign for like Beer Street or Libations Lane or something on 7th Street, because there's now 3 of us here, so that could be really fun
that's awesome.
to look for. It's kind of like a beer alley block party or something like that. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize how close you were to Marshall until I took the wrong turn one day.
Yeah.
And went up the side street in between you guys, and was like, oh, you could walk that.
Yeah,
that's
but you can
nice.
imagine how fun it would be to just close this whole street off and have a bunch of trucks, and bands, different locations.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It'd be super awesome. Fun. So hopefully we get that together with them.
Yeah. I think that is everything I had, unless there's anything you want to add.
So, shameless marketing plugs, that's my
Absolutely.
Job, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, what they're doing today while the guys aren't with us talking is they're canning our Hunt Me an IPA. So, that is going to be available in 4 packs starting tomorrow out of our tap room. And it's going to be hitting liquor store shelves just in time for Memorial Day. So,
awesome.
Be looking for that.
Yeah. Totally.
That's kind of like the biggest exciting news right now from the brewery. So.
Yeah. And before we get out of here, I'll throw out, you can check out Cabin Boys, cabinboysbrewery.com, all the social media stuff. I'm assuming it's just Cabin Boys.
Yep, Cabin Boys Brewery.
Yeah. And then we're at pubtalkpodcast.com and at pubtalkpodcast on the various social media. So thanks again for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
And until next time, chill to the next episode.